Photoshop has a number of built-in non-destructive effects, like the drop shadow, which can be applied to a variety of different kinds of layers. In this case, we're going to add the drop shadow to this photograph, but in order to do this, I need to convert the background into a layer. So I'll click on the lock icon in the Layers panel, and then choose Edit, Transform, and then Scale. I'll hold down the Shift key and the Option key. That will allow me to constrain the proportions as well as drag from the center, just to make this a little bit smaller. Then I'll tap the check mark or Return or Enter to apply that transformation. Now to add the drop shadow, from the bottom of the Layers panel, I'll click on the Effects icon and choose Drop Shadow. I'm going to move the Layer Styles box out of the way so we can have a little bit more room to see what's happening. I can change the color and blend mode as well as opacity. Right now it's set pretty high. To make sure that we're all starting in the same spot, I'm going to click Reset to Default, which will just reset all of the options here to their default settings. Then we can decide to add just a little bit more opacity. I'll also add a bigger distance for the drop shadow, and I'm going to change the angle. And although I can change both of these in the dialog box, it's probably easier to click anywhere in the image area and drag in order to reposition both the distance and the angle at one time. In order to create a softer drop shadow, I can increase the size. Now, once I've done that, it's a little difficult to see, so I'm also going to increase the opacity. Let's add some additional layer effects. I'm going to click on the stroke option. Now there's a difference between clicking here where it says stroke and actually checking this box. If I just check the box, it applies the stroke, but I don't get the stroke options. In order to customize the stroke, I have to click to the right of the word, and that will give me all of the stroke options. I'll add a 10 pixel stroke, and I'm going to position it on the inside. If I position it on the outside, then I get this rounded corner. I prefer to have a sharp corner, so I'll choose inside. We can change the blend mode and opacity here as well, but I'm going to leave these alone. What I would like to do is I would like to add a secondary stroke. So I'll click the plus icon under the styles. And for this secondary stroke, I'm going to make it a little bit thinner. So let's say maybe 5 points. And I'll change the color by clicking on the color swatch and then positioning my cursor over a color that I want to select in the image, clicking with the eyedropper tool, and then modifying that just a little bit to make it a little bit darker and a little bit more saturated. We'll click OK, and you can see that that's the red stroke on the outside. If I want to make the red stroke a little bit more dominant, I can increase the size of it, but because this stroke is on top of the black stroke, when I make it the same size, it's hiding it. So if I wanted to modify the black stroke, I could come down and click on that stroke option and then increase that stroke size maybe to 15. It also looks a little heavy with the black stroke on the inside, so I'll click on the color swatch and choose white for that inner stroke and click OK. There are a number of different effects with the plus icon, which tells me that I can add multiple copies, including the drop shadow effect. I'll go ahead and click on the plus icon there. And in order to add a drop shadow that goes in a different direction, I would want to uncheck Use Global Light. Now I can reposition the secondary drop shadow in any direction or at any angle without affecting the angle on any of the other layers. All right, I don't want that, so in order to remove it, I'm going to click on the trash can icon. All right, let's click OK and take a look at the Layers panel. You can see that I've added 3 different layer effects. Now, together these are referred to as layer styles. If I want to hide the layer styles, I can click on the little triangle to the right of the effects. That just makes it a little bit easier to manage them on my Layers panel. I'll go ahead and show them again. If I want to hide any of them, I can click on the eye icon to temporarily toggle them off. I'll click again in order to toggle it on. If I wanted to delete just a single effect, I can click and drag that effect to the trash. I'll go ahead and undo that using Command Z. If I wanted to delete all of the effects, I could drag the word effect to the trash and that would delete them all. Again, I'll undo that. And finally, if I want to re-edit any of these effects, all I need to do is double-click on the effect that brings up the Layer Style dialog. Then I can make any necessary changes. When I'm done, I'll click OK. And if I save this file as a PSD or a TIFF file with multiple layers, I can always come back and re-edit these at any time. Excellent. That wraps up this overview of layer effects and layer styles in Photoshop.